Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Wednesday, September 28th, 2022. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Helps us out a ton. And don't forget to put your baseball plays in the comments section below. If you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at the premium picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Of course, I'm always running my $15 MLB best bet, so check it out at Pick Dawgz Premium. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Wednesday, September 28th. First up, we see the Cincinnati Reds taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. Luis Cessa and Bryce Wilson are your projected starters. The Pirates have played really well in this series as of late. They do lead the season series now, and Bryce Wilson faced this Reds lineup back on September 12th. He went 5 2/3 innings. He only gave up 3 earned runs and had 4 strikeouts, which may not be a great start for most pitchers, but for Bryce Wilson and the Pirates, it's certainly a big win for them. And overall, Bryce Wilson has been improving as the season continues. I do think the Pirates just playing really well against Cincinnati right now. And even though these are two teams that I'm not looking to back very often, I am going to trust the home team just a little bit more with Bryce Wilson on the mound. Luis Cessa faced this Pirates lineup back on September 13th. That was a 6-1 Pirates win. Cessa gave up 8 base hits, 3 home runs, and 5 earned runs in that game. So give me the Pittsburgh Pirates here on the money line at home. Next up, we see the Tampa Bay Rays taking on the Cleveland Guardians. It's the season debut, the long-awaited season debut of Tyler Glasnow for Tampa Bay, and then Tristan McKenzie on the other side. Tyler Glasnow is one of the more exciting pitchers to watch, in my opinion. He's got really good strikeout stuff. Now, sometimes the control can be an issue, but overall, he's going to be a big addition to this Rays rotation. If he can stay healthy into the postseason, he can definitely help this Rays team. And I don't expect him to go too deep into this ball game. And he is a type of pitcher, like I said, with the control issues, I don't necessarily love in their first start back to the major league level after being out for the whole season. I do think this is going to be a little bit of an issue in this particular game, facing a Guardians lineup that is very patient at the plate. They don't strike out much. They can get on base via the walk and the single, and that's the type of lineup that I don't think Glasnow would want to face particularly. So I do think that the advantage does go to the Guardians, especially with a good starter on their side in Tristan McKenzie, who's having a really good season with a 3.04 ERA. I think the Guardians are going to take this one after McKenzie's 13 strikeout performance against the White Sox last time out. Give me the Cleveland Guardians, but I'm super excited to see Glasnow back at the major league level. Next up, we see the New York Yankees taking on the Toronto Blue Jays. Garrett Cole and Mitch White are your projected starters. Now, because Garrett Cole's on the mound for the Yankees, we're actually getting plus money with the home team here in the Toronto Blue Jays. And I actually do like the Blue Jays getting plus money here on the money line, even though Mitch White, a 5.12 ERA, hasn't fared too well this season, especially with his new team. I do think against the Yankees lineup that he's actually had success against, where he pitched against them back on August 20th. He went 4 innings, giving up only 1 earned run with 5 strikeouts. That was a 5-2 Blue Jays win in the end. And facing a pitcher in Garrett Cole who just hasn't been very sharp lately. Sure, he's missing bats. He's striking out plenty of batters. 8 strikeouts last time, the 8 strikeouts the previous start. He had 10 against the Red Sox on the 13th of September, and he had 14 against the Twins on the 7th of September, but he's given up at least 1 home run in each of his last 5 games. He's given up multiple home runs in each of his last 3 games, 2 to the Red Sox, 2 to the Brewers, and then 3 more to the Red Sox back on the 13th. He's walking some batters. He's given up at least 4 earned runs in each of his last 3 starts. To me, even though his lineup has been able to back him up in those games, he just doesn't deserve to be favored on the road against a tough Blue Jays lineup that's been very good against right-handed pitching. So I'm going to go with the value lies. Give me the Toronto Blue Jays getting plus money at home. In our next game, we see the Kansas City Royals taking on the Detroit Tigers. We're going to see Daniel Lynch and Matt Manning as your projected starters. Now, with Daniel Lynch being a lefty, I do think the Tigers have an advantage offensively here. They haven't had a very high strikeout rate against lefties in the last month, which is something we haven't really seen from Detroit all season long, but 19.8% is the 6th lowest strikeout rate against left-handers in the last 30 days. They're top 10 in team OPS, they're top 15 in isolated power, and Daniel Lynch hasn't really been pitching well this year. His ERA above 5 on the season at 5.06. Now, his numbers on the road a little bit better, but I still don't love him even at this kind of price. His last time facing the Tigers was back on September 9th, where he went 3 2/3 innings, giving up 10 base hits and 6 earned runs, 2 homers in that game. The start previous to that one against the Tigers back on September 2nd, he went 5 innings, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, and 2 homers, so has not pitched well against the Tigers this season, and particularly as of late. And I don't love him in this matchup with Matt Manning on the other side, who's got a 3.43 ERA and having a pretty good second half of the season, coming off another decent outing against the Baltimore Orioles. Now, his offense didn't help him out much, and he did his defense didn't help him out much either, giving up a couple unearned runs. But in his last 12 1/3 innings pitched, he's had 9 strikeouts with 3 earned runs allowed and only 1 home run allowed. And I think he's good enough here for the Tigers to grab a win. Give me the Detroit Tigers on the money line. Next up, we see the Atlanta Braves taking on the Washington Nationals. Josiah Gray and Jake Odorizzi are your projected starters. Now, I don't really trust either of these starting pitchers, even though the Nationals' offense hasn't been great this season. I still think we get over this total. Josiah Gray, if you're going to take him, I like taking him in a road game and in a day game, but in his home starts at night, just hasn't fared well. 6.57 home ERA, 5.99 night ERA, and he's facing an Atlanta Braves lineup that's been very good against righties this season, and that's definitely the case in the last month, where they're number 4 in the league in team OPS and number 3 in isolated power. Now, when you look at the Nationals' team OPS numbers against righties in that stretch, they're actually ranked 11th in the league, so they're not too bad. They did get shut out in the first game of this series, but against Odorizzi, I expect a few runs from Washington at home. Give me the over here in this Braves-Nationals ballgame. Next up, we see the Baltimore Orioles and the Boston Red Sox at Fenway Park. Rich Hill and Dean Kremer are the starters. You know, Rich Hill, if he was going to have a good outing at Fenway Park, I do think this would be the one, as he's facing an Orioles lineup that hasn't really done a lot against lefties these days. When you look at their team OPS and isolated power numbers, they're not great. The team OPS is ranked 29th in the league, isolated power ranked 29th as well, and their strikeout percentage is in the top 10 for the highest strikeout rate. So, like I said, Rich Hill not faring well at Fenway Park, an ERA above 6, but this does set up to be a decent outing for him. He faced the Orioles in Camden Yards back on September 11th. He went 5 innings, shutout ball at 7 strikeouts in that game. So, I think Rich Hill's going to be good enough here for the Red Sox to stay competitive. You look at Dean Kremer on the other side. Sure, he's got that 3.07 ERA, but a 4.25 expected ERA and a 4.28 xFIP as well. So there is some regression concerns in his game. The Red Sox bats have been really good against righties, even in that first game of the series where they lost 14-8. Their offense was still there. They had 15 base hits. The team OPS is now number 1 in the league against righties in the last 30 days. So I think the Red Sox compete here. Give me the Boston Red Sox on the money line. Next up, we see an NL East matchup between the Miami Marlins and the New York Mets. Jesus Luzardo and Taijuan Walker are your projected starters. This is going to be one of the lower totals on the board for Wednesday's games. I'm seeing 7s, and I'm actually seeing some 6.5s as well. So shop those lines, try to get the best number possible, but I'm on the under in this game. Taijuan Walker has faced the Marlins a lot this season. 30-plus innings against the Marlins. And now, while I usually would say when a lineup faces the same pitcher and over again, the advantage does go to the lineup, the Marlins have just done nothing against Taijuan Walker this season. He's 4-0 with a 2.23 ERA in those 32 1/3 innings pitched. He's given up only 2 home runs with 35 strikeouts, an opponent's batting average of .212, and only 6 walks allowed. He has been very, very impressive against this Marlins lineup. And on the other side, even though the Mets numbers have been pretty good against lefties these days, Jesus Luzardo's having a good season overall. He missed a good amount of time due to an injury, but a 3.57 ERA overall, and an even better numbers on the road at 2.60 ERA, coming off a really good start against the Cubs where he went 6 2/3 innings, giving up only 1 earned run with 11 strikeouts in that one. He's been able to miss a good amount of bats, and I think this is going to be a lower scoring game overall. I like the Mets to win it outright, but I think the value is with the under in this one, so give me the under in this Mets-Marlins game. Next up, we see the Chicago White Sox taking on the Minnesota Twins. Johnny Cueto and Josh Winder are your starters. Johnny Cueto's had good numbers on paper against the Twins this season, a 2.25 ERA in 12 innings of work. However, I am concerned with the fact that he allowed 7 walks this season to Minnesota, only 8 strikeouts, an opponent's batting average of .267 is also pretty high for where that ERA currently is. So even though the ERA is good against the Twins, the FIP is a lot higher against Minnesota, and I do think that the Twins will be able to get to him for a few runs early on in this game. I also like the White Sox offensively against Josh Winder and this pretty weak Twins bullpen as well. Winder had a really good start to his first major league outings, but lately, giving up a lot of home runs. He's given up at least 2 home runs in 3 of his last 4, and the strikeout numbers are starting to drop. We saw him miss a lot of bats at the beginning of his outings. Now, overall, in 60 innings of work, he's only got 39 strikeouts, giving up a good amount of base hits and earned runs. I don't like him in this matchup. Give me the over in this White Sox-Twins game. I lean towards the White Sox on the money line, but I think the over is the better play. In our next game, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Chicago Cubs with Hayden Wesneski and Aaron Nola as the projected starters. Wesneski's had a really good couple starts at the major league level. He was acquired by the Cubs in that Yankees trade for Scott Efros, and Wesneski's missing a lot of bats, 24 strikeouts and 22 innings of work. Now, the home run ball has hurt him at times in his last 3 games, giving up 3 home runs, but the big thing that really concerns me with him in this spot is he hasn't really faced a very tough lineup yet. He's faced the Reds, the Giants, and the Rockies all at home, and then the Pittsburgh Pirates on the road. All those teams are not going to be making the playoffs, and all those teams, pretty bad numbers in terms of their team OPS against righties, with the Rockies more particularly on the road when they're not playing at Coors Field. So, facing a Phillies lineup that's been very good against righties, they're number 2 in the league in team OPS in the last month, number 4 in isolated power. They don't really strike out much either. 20.7% strikeout rate is one of the lower ones in the league. I just don't love this particular spot for Wesneski, even though he could have a very bright future at the major league level, and he's already shown some promise this season. Now, Aaron Nola, another tough spot to be in for the Cubs, as he's been one of the better starters in the National League this year in a 3.02 road ERA, coming off a really good start against the Braves where he went 6 innings, shutout baseball with 8 strikeouts. I got to take the Phillies in this game on the run line. I do think there's going to be a little regression in Wesneski's game, and I think the Phillies take advantage of that in a very important game for them trying to make the playoffs. So give me the Phillies laying the 1.5 runs on the run line. In our next game, we see the St. Louis Cardinals taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Jose Quintana and Brandon Woodruff are your projected starters. Jose Quintana's in really good form, and most times I'd say when the Brewers are facing a lefty, it's almost an auto fade for them, but these days, their numbers are actually improving against left-handers offensively. The Brewers have a 10.2% walk percentage in the last month, which is one of the higher walk percentages in the league. Their isolated power is now inside the top 15 against lefties in the last 30 days. Team OPS numbers are also improving, so this offense is actually looking up against those left-handers, while Brandon Woodruff has been spectacular at American Family Field this season, 7-0 with a 2.16 ERA in 66 2/3 innings at home this season. He's got 90 strikeouts as well, pitching really well at home and coming off another really good outing against the Cincinnati Reds, and that game was on the road. He pitched 6 innings, 1 earned run, 11 strikeouts. The previous start to that one against the Yankees at home, September 17th, 8 innings, 1 earned run, and 10 strikeouts in a 4-1 Brewers win. The Brewers have won each of the last 3 games that Woodruff has started in, and I think they grabbed a win in this one as well. Should be a close game, should be a fun game to watch, but I'm going to take the Brewers here on the money line. Next up, we see the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the Houston Astros, and man, do we have a great pitching matchup for this game. Zach Gallen, one of the hotter pitchers, one could say the best pitcher in the second half of 2022, going up against Justin Verlander, who's got the best ERA in the league, the best whip, the ERA at 1.82, the whip at 0.84. He's got 91 strikeouts and 76 innings at home this season with a 1.78 home ERA and a 9-1 record. So these two pitchers are in great form right now. Both of these lineups haven't really been great against righties these days, and that's why you see a total at 6.5, and I think it's going to drop to 6 runs as well. As much as I'd like to take the under because of how well these pitchers have pitched this season, I just can't get there because of not a lot of wiggle room. I mean, there's really no value on the under, in my opinion, with the total being so low. I think I'd just rather take the underdog plus the 1.5 runs. This sets up to be a very close game, and these two teams have played in quite a few close games in their interleague series history, and I think I'd rather have the 1.5 runs with the underdog here, a team that I think has a chance to win the game outright, and I think you're getting a good price with them as the run line dog. So give me Arizona plus the 1.5 runs in a game I'm very excited to watch. Next up, we see the Oakland Athletics taking on the Los Angeles Angels. Adrian Martinez and Michael Lorenzen are your starters, and oh boy, this has got to be my least favorite game on the board. I've been looking at this thing for a while, trying to figure out something that I feel a little bit confident in, but I'm just going to lean towards the Angels laying the run line at home. I don't love the price that it's at. I don't love the money line price. I don't think Michael Lorenzen is a minus 200 plus pitcher right now. But, Adrian Martinez is in really bad form. The Oakland A's bullpen's also not something that I love. And the Oakland A's offensively haven't been very good. So, Lorenzen's got much better numbers at home this season. I will give him that at 3.09 ERA. But his strikeout numbers have kind of been all over the place. The walk numbers and home run numbers are still an issue for him. And, this is just a game that I'll be staying away from altogether. That's for sure. So I'm going to lean towards the Angels, like I said, but not my favorite game on the board. Next up, we see the Los Angeles Dodgers taking on the San Diego Padres with Julio Urias and Joe Musgrove as the starters. Even though the Padres have been really good against lefties offensively in the last month, Julio Urias has really owned them lately. His last 13 innings of work, only giving up 3 earned runs, and both of those games back on September 3rd and September 10th. Big wins for the Dodgers, 12-1 and 8-4. He has been a winning machine for Los Angeles this season, and that's definitely the case in the last 2 months, you could say. Only losing 1 game. The Dodgers have only lost 1 of Julio Urias' starts since the beginning of June. It was June 12th where he lost to the Giants 2-0. Since that game, he lost 1 game. The Dodgers lost 1 game. It was August 22nd against the Brewers. Every single other start was a win for Los Angeles. So at a very viable price, a good price at minus 150, minus 140, I'm seeing it at. I got to take the Dodgers on the money line. They've been good against righties. Java Joe Musgrove hasn't really been the most trustworthy, even though he had good numbers on paper against the Cardinals in his last start. I watched that outing. It wasn't the strongest near the end of it, giving up some sharp contact. He gave up a home run as well. So give me the Dodgers on the money line. Next up, we see the Texas Rangers taking on the Seattle Mariners with Martin Perez and George Kirby as the projected starters for now, but there is no official lineup for this game, so we could see a pitching change. Martin Perez has been good this season. He's got even better numbers on the road, but I just don't love this Rangers bullpen, and I don't love the Rangers offensively away from home. And George Kirby, he's been having a really good second half of the year. He didn't have his best start last time out against the Oakland A's, but overall, other than that outing, he's been pitching really well for Seattle near the end of the regular season. I think he's good enough here for the Mariners to grab a win and run line cover. So I'm just going to lean towards the Mariners here. We'll wait to see if we can get some more information, see where the money line price is and who the official starters are going to be. But right now I'm leaning Seattle, laying the 1.5 runs. In our final game of the night, we see the San Francisco Giants hosting the Colorado Rockies. No official lineup for this game quite yet, as the Giants have not announced a starter, but we should see Jose Urena going for the Rockies. And because the Rockies have struggled so much on the road and Urena has got that 5.34 ERA, we can predict that the Rockies are going to be pretty sizable underdogs here, but I actually think the Rockies keep this game close, and Urena's been in really good form lately in his last 5 starts, giving up 2 earned runs or fewer in all 5 of those games, including a start against these Giants, and that was at Coors Field where he went 5 2/3 innings with 6 strikeouts and only 2 earned runs allowed. His last 3 starts, he's kept the Rockies in games. They've won 2 of those 3 games, and I think he pitches well enough here. He's in really good form, and the Giants offensively haven't been great this season, so give me the Colorado Rockies in a lean here, getting the 1.5 runs as the road dog. And that's it. Those are the games for Wednesday, September 28th. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball plays in the comment section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.